So hopefully you like the movie, the draw two parts, little bit months. We'll discuss the content of the movie right now. Introduce our guest. I'll start from the left side, Professor Fedor Šimkovic. And Murdoch.
And Vladimír Slugeň. So welcome. I'll start with a softball question. How did you like the movie?
I already answered because I organized this event. So that's my answer. So I think it has clear message. This. I am very happy that there are many young people here, and they can distribute all this information, all this knowledge, and think about it, to do even something for this amount, solve the problem, this change of climate.
Nice to be here this evening. I mean, this is the second time I've seen the movie, and the last time I saw it in an event here in Slovakia with Oliver Stone. It's for me, it strikes me very much that there's been a lost opportunity with nuclear, and I think it's this generation's opportunity to change that, and maybe that's what we're going to talk about the rest of the session.
And for you?
Also, like Andrew, I saw the movie the second time. The first time in the weekend, my son searched for it on the internet. I saw the same movie, but instead of the black screen, there were advertisements. And these advertisements were so annoying that I couldn't see it till the end. So now I saw it till the end. But because I'm in this business over 40 years, I studied nuclear power energy in the last century. I saw this picture, these shots many, many times, but connected in different way, sometimes by different output. And now the message was towards small modular reactors. But I could imagine that the main message could be also towards the thermonuclear fusion and ITER facility. I can imagine also that the big message could be also to the advanced generation of the fourth generation. Now it's in the track and also attractive to speak about the small modular reactor. And I'm just coming from Vienna, from the agency, where is the big conference about the small modular reactor with 800 participants and 200 papers and posters and stands and bullets, etc. So the big message is, let's consider about practical use of the nuclear energy. And one of the, let's say, good option, micro modular reactors, small modular reactors, or advanced modular reactors. And from this point of view, it was interesting.
We'll discuss this more later on. Now, a more tricky question. The movie was very positive about nuclear energy. Has it missed something negative? Nobody wants to.
I can start, if you allow me. I know so many disadvantages of nuclear energy that we could be here of about 2 weeks. I have the time, if you have.
Big one.
Nevertheless, finally, when you, as technician, put all these features on the common basis, you will recognize, unfortunately, although the nuclear is not ideal, it's from the offered solution the best. And that's my conclusion based on the 40 years of speaking about the advantages, disadvantages. Nothing is absolute clean, nothing is absolute safe, but it's necessary to recognize the portion of the safety and unsafety. And from this point of view, the nuclear seems to be a good option.
So I would just say nothing bad about nuclear energy, maybe about nuclear technology. So know that we are also product of nuclear reactions. So the elements produced in sun by the supernova explosion, and therefore we are here. So even the solar energy, its origin is just a nuclear reaction. So we can somehow understand. I see also this is the message of it, that we should be not afraid of nuclear reaction, nuclear physics, and radioactivities, because we are living with it. But in respect of nuclear technologies, I would say that it's a process. It's like, you see, you cannot learn flying, and it was even told in this movie, without flying, yes, and without accidents. There were also many accidents, I would say, third plane industry. The same is happening also in the nuclear industry. Actually, we had these 4 famous explosions with nuclear power plants, but there were many other accidents. And you know that I'm not speaking about it. Satellites are flying at us, and each of them has few tens of kilograms of plutonium or uranium. So we should worry about these technologies and take lesson for each accident. Go ahead, because there is a lot of positive in nuclear energy, and we should take profit of it. But we should understand everything what is happening and take respect of this energy.
So for me, the film focuses a lot on the public perception of nuclear and how the public perception drives to a political challenge for nuclear, and how that has affected the sort of long-term growth of the industry, and it's had many false starts, as I've described in the film. And what's clear for me, you know, back when the industry started, when the US, France, the UK were building many reactors very, very quickly. Over, you know, sort of 20 years, 50 reactors in France, something like that. Really fast. With a huge amount of support from government. It was a government program of reactors, as it was in the US. And so what we're seeing perhaps more recently is a very rapid growth of support for it for nuclear, but still a failure to kind of kickstart those huge programs that happened back in the origins of the industry. And so, you know, one of the issues that prevents that is the scale of the investment required and some of the reputation the industry has had in recent years for delivery or failing to deliver. You know, nuclear projects are large projects. They're complex projects. You know, Slovakia has been grappling with Mochovce for many years and now coming to the end of that program. They're difficult projects, but actually, if you deliver lots and lots of them rapidly, you learn from them, and you can then make successful delivery. And people won't remember the first one; they'll remember the achievement of the large scale deployment. So for me, I think the scale and that kind of initial upfront investment is one of the barriers, and that's one of the problems of nuclear. Now, of course, you know, we talked then about small modular reactors, and that's, you know, the business of Nucleo. We are a advanced technology company. We're developing a liquid-lead fast reactor, which is a form of SMR, but it's an advanced technology, so we call it an advanced modular reactor. And the aim of all of the SMRs, again, as described in the film, is to make the initial investment much smaller. You have a smaller project, you deliver a program of those projects, and actually that barrier of cost and scale and complexity reduces, and you very quickly get to the point where you have this economy of scale and a program you can deliver. So that's really the thought behind why SMRs take off, rather than solely continuing with the large-scale reactors.
So we have a new panelist, Stefano Buono joined us. Hello, can you hear us well?
Yes, perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yeah. can hear you well. So we just saw the movie. We just discussed what was missing in the movie, what was there, how did we like it, and the next question is the perception of nuclear energy, which is basically the tricky question. Partially, we have the technology solved, but now it's about how people like it, and maybe we're overly, not me, I was too young for that, but people were overly maybe optimistic that the product is so good it will sell itself and there is no need for good marketing, and then suddenly the tide has been changed. So how can we deal with this issue? Is the tide changing again? People are liking it more, or should we just turn on the autopilot and just wait?
I think there is no product ever that sells easily, almost. So it's a problem, but in particular the one of nuclear. It is a central problem, the acceptance of the people. You have seen the long narrative that prevented people to appreciate this fantastic technology is going to be also very, unfortunately, very long to unbalance this. So how can we make this problem solved? First, we try to take away the fears of the people. So talking about and creating machines that are implement passive safety, intrinsic safety, to take care of the nuclear waste and use it as a resources, and possibly to provide electricity at a very low price. That is where people will start really to appreciate also things. Nuclear can even one day enter in our daily life if we decide to use fission fragments to power the batteries of our telephones one day, like is proposed by the Chinese and Americans today as new projects. But it enters also in our life when we have to take care of significant medical problems. And these are the impact of nuclear in this case is positive on people, but possibly we have to explain that it's not only energy, it's many things. When we master the power of the atom, we can have many, many things that are positive for our life. But it's a longer path.
Do you want to add something?
Perception of the nuclear power. We have to completely our approach in many situations. It's not possible to build new reactor in 3 years, as it was shown by the first submarine Nautilus, that between 52 and 54, the Nautilus submarine with nuclear reactor was built. It's crazy now, not possible. I remember my time in the Munich when the first German training reactor as Atom I was built in 6 months in Munich, in the city, in the center of the city. In 6 months, German built, according American project already proved, that in 6 months was it from the beginning in operation. Now switch to the reality. He was member of the Scientific Advisory Committee of Mochovce Unit 3 commissioning. Do you know how many years it took? 34 years. If you would start now the new source in Slovakia according all legislation rules, for example, in Bohunice locality to build new nuclear power plant, with all support of the government, but keeping existing legislation and rules, it will be not before 2014 operation. And this project started 2008 already. AI is running and location sitting was done and many reports and discussion with the public hearing, etc. In these circumstances, the perception of the nuclear power by the young generation is, you will remember it. Unfortunately, that's true. And we have to change the moral, ethics. We have to change also legislation, not only financing. If the project is good, the finance will be on the table. Completely approach to the acceptance by the rules and disaster and real loss with the Greens. In the last 30 years, we took in the nuclear industry the liberalization system based on the possibility by the lawyers prolong the lifetime of decision. And that's deadly for investor. Nobody will invest money if the product will be in 34 years. Forget it. Never. And if we consider now also about the small modular reactors, all the project should be short from 3 to 5 years as the maximum. How to change it? There is the perception of the nuclear projects now. I'm too long, excuse me.
Fine. Was very insightful.
I was going to sort of use the kind of somewhat more optimistic examples from what we hear from the news in the US recently. Microsoft, one of the big technology companies, doing a deal to support the return to service of 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island was the subject of the film and one of the US's worst nuclear accidents. And Microsoft, a mainstream household name, is investing in that return to service and benefiting from the power that will come from that and the low cost power. We've seen Amazon investing in X Energy, the other company that was mentioned in the film, making SMRs. Again, another example of where the big technology firms are seeing the potential and the essential need for nuclear to power data centers and AI and machine learning, which is, as you look at the future energy growth, that's one of the massive areas that's changing. So there's a sort of nuclear is becoming part of the conversation ever more, day by day. We see it at a political level, we see it at an industrial level, and that is, we saw TikTok influencer on the film. It's about making nuclear a word which is part of mainstream conversation, and then that starts, I think, changing perceptions. But we need to deliver as well, and we need initial projects to make good progress and to show a new nuclear, not a nuclear of the wilderness age where it takes 30 years and costs double or triple what it should.
So maybe I will not agree with Professor Slugeň, and I would just not take it too pessimistic way, yes, because you see, situation is changing dramatically. Climate change is changing the position of people and the request of people. I remember, for example, in Armenia, they, after the earthquake, maybe it was 90s of the previous century, they decided to close atomic power station. But then realized they don't have enough energy and they switch it on. Now I listened that even the 3 Mile Island power station block, which one was destroyed, second was working and stopped, yes, is reopened. Yes? So therefore, even maybe in some future in Germany and even in this Zwentendorf by Vienna, we will think about to open it as is artificial intelligence, yes, with all these data storages, yes. The request for electricity is enormous, and we have to take it from somewhere. So therefore, all these problems will be simplified, but they need a better solution and more practical, like for example, these modular nuclear reactors. But they have also some vision maybe there are these technologies for future, there are these fusion technologies like ITER, it is just International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor in Kadar, which is developed, practically the whole world is participating in it. And the next step after this reactor will be working, maybe 40 or later, will be just industrial reactor. But I will also that you understand that we have a lot of uranium. Is this uranium and the price we have for it, we can operate our power station for next 300 years. But if we would like to invest more for to get the uranium, maybe for seawater, it is for 10,000s of years. And even if we would use just this fast neutron breeder reactor, this prolonged medicinal way. So what will be in such period, I don't know. There is no forecast for it. We are speaking only about 2050 and 2100. So I would be saying more optimistic. When it is needed, we will take the correct decision, the main kind. But people should be, the society should be well educated for it.
You want to react?
Yes, with the joke. Do you know difference between the Comenius University and the professor or student of the Faculty of Mathematics, Physics and Technician? Imagine there's a campus and there's a fire. But first wake up the student of the journalismus and photography, they make some picture and disappear. As the second wake up, the student from the Comenius University come down and see, yeah, there is some water, there is a pipeline, the task has solution and get sleep. And finally, wake up the technician, close the fire, not only check if there is the pipeline, but it is working long enough, it is electricity and switch off all electricity, check if there are some people put there somewhere in the hospital if necessary, and completely tired are sitting there because the last one who is waking up is the students from the police academy. And because the only one could be found there on the burning campus is the technician, he will punish him. Unfortunately, my speech sometimes seems to be pessimistic, but I am realist. That's the difference. But we are on the university and approach to dream and find solution. It's very pedagogical, my colleague professor.
It's a very short comment. Yes. Historical just note that Enrico Fermi, physicist from the university, he created the first nuclear reactor with his students. So it's possible.
Now let's turn the page. One of the themes of the movie were nuclear accidents, and the thing that the movie changed my mind about something is the following fact. Before watching the movie, I would say, if there was no Chernobyl, no 3 Mile Island, no Fukushima, no Jaslovské Bohunice, then the energy landscape today would be completely different. Will be mostly nuclear and so on. After watching the movie and realizing, well, it's a very well-financed anti-nuclear propaganda operating, would anything change if there were no accidents, or they would just find different talking points like, I don't know, storage of nuclear fuel, mining? So would it be perfect? Would it be better, or would the situation would be the same?
May I start? I do not think so. I would like to open your mind. Plenty of nuclear power plants in US were shut down, not because of the, let's say, social acceptance. They were not economical anymore. It's not only one reason that we are unlucky because of the green movement which shut down the nuclear power plant. It's not true. In some circumstances, the nuclear power too expensive. Second point is, sometimes there are not enough educated staff. Many people are thinking that there is possible restart of the German nuclear power. Yeah, it's possible. But perhaps in 10 years, it will be not in 2-3 years, and they restart the shut down nuclear power plants. There disappear a whole generation of the experts. There is the problem with the human power, not with the iron or technology. Therefore, I would like also consider other factor, not only and exclusively an acceptance of the nuclear power. That's my message.
It was nearly mildly positive.
I mean, I think it's very correct and realistic that economics play a massive part. As I mentioned earlier, the investment in a nuclear power plant is significant, and through the late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, there were many other forms of power that could be invested in that people were confident would happen quickly. They didn't need that whole massive state program to support. Private investment could come forward. Gas was cheap. Gas power plants were cheap. The alternatives were there. But that was in a period before the world became aware of climate change, and I think, even now, recently was published the World Energy Outlook. I think it was in the last week or so. And some interesting numbers, right? In the last 10 years, since 2013, you'd think that there'd be a meaningful change in the amount or the ratio of fossil fuels to renewables. But actually, it was 82% fossil fuels in 2013, and it was 80% in 2023. So all of the efforts of the global industry have only reduced fossil fuels by 2%. In that time, energy demand has gone up by 15%, quite a lot. I think in Europe and in the US, it's leveled off. But of course, we have all of the developing countries. Only 40% of that growth was met by clean energy. So the scale of the challenge in meeting all of the climate change objectives, the net zero objectives, the 2050 objectives are huge. And, ultimately, I think one of the reasons that nuclear becomes part of this equation, we're still only 10% nuclear, okay? If we triple the world's electricity demand and we triple nuclear, we're still, and that was the COP28 objective, we're still at 10%. So, the amount of effort that's needed to make nuclear happen, there is still a sort of analytical view. If you look at the effect that nuclear has on the cost of power, nuclear has a net positive effect on the cost of power if you apply that to a grid. And so, the world should be looking at how do you get a clean but also a low cost grid. Europe should be looking at how do we get a clean and the lowest cost grid, because ultimately low cost power drives economic growth. It drives economic advantage. And at the moment we see obviously China doing huge investment in nuclear, huge investment in the energy transition. And we're at the moment not actually making sufficient inroads into that challenge in Europe.
So maybe we can ask either Professor Šimkovic or Stefano, have the accidents changed anything, or it would be nearly the same?
I completely agree with the other speakers on this question. I may add that possibly the bomb has been the use of the fear, the people, to scare the people. was an element that was not really related to the nuclear accident. Remember, nuclear power started with a bomb. Who had the bomb after was the very powerful country that could scare the other country. So, what used the fear of nuclear power to scare the people to get more power was also the aim. So there is also this other aspect, and maybe it hasn't been touched before. It is not expressly developed in the documentary, but is really true. So the idea of the enormous fallout, if there is a nuclear bombing, the extermination of why people in 3 Mile Island thought that the province could have arrived until New York. Because there was this concept of really exaggerated radiation consequence from the bomb, but also from the nuclear accident. So this unfortunately was not only due to the accident themselves.
So for me, it's hypothetical question. Because of course the world would be different. Maybe we will be not discussing today the climate change, maybe a little bit later, but nevertheless we will come to this point, yes? And because there is no other solution like that, we need nuclear energy and we need technologies which can produce them reliably and in a substantial way. Therefore, I think we have to take it like a fact. It happened, and do everything for that it will never happen again.
So few of you have eased the issue of, well, moving fast and breaking things. Like it's taking way too many years and we don't have the time. One of the examples of moving very quickly and surprisingly successfully is SpaceX, which are building rockets on a very quick pace, and maybe we jumped 10 years ahead in this area. So as nuclear wants to be a SpaceX of nuclear energy in this regard, like being capable of improving things very, very quickly and still being reasonably safe and delivering the product, well, I don't want to say on time, but well, not decades after the deadline.
Stefano, you should take that.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I think we have a role as a private company to play this role, I would say. We already raised 537 million, so we are on a good way to go. But there is an additional effort that we have to do. Not only we have to show that we are a successful company bringing private investment into action, but we have to make nuclear energy investable. So, what was said before, we needed to show that the nuclear project can be concluded in 3 years, so that the private investment into nuclear become possible. And so it's not only our own action and our own success, is then the leverage that we can create on many investors and funds, etc., that will invest directly into nuclear projects. That's the mission, our mission. So going fast, having something demonstrate that we can realize a reactor very rapidly, this is very important for the nuclear industry as well. And the cost, of course. The cost has to be reasonable, because to be investable, you have to have a return on investment. So if your energy is too expensive, it's not worth. And that's why we choose a different technology, because we believe that with lead, our cost can be much more competitive.
Will be again a little bit provocative, but do not sleep. To accelerate dramatically the nuclear project and make shorter the build of the nuclear power plant, we need a dictator. If we do not like dictator, we have to proceed slowly. Yes, we can something accelerate with the better laws, better procedures, but in general, there is not time like after the Second World War. It was obvious that you need the nuclear reactor for the submarines, because if the submarines of the German army could be long under the water and not each 5 days refueled, would be that all convoys and all war in the Pacific would be completely different. Small modular reactors took this idea from the Nautilus and submarines. And the second one was identification of the submarine, because the long primary pipelines, it means a lot of noise. If you have somewhere outside the big pump, also a lot of noise. So the submarine is now, by the new sonars, possible to recognize 100 kilometers from the position, sometimes because of the noise. If you make the shorter the pipeline and completely replace the pumps, it will be very, very science. Now back to the small modular reactor development. Nobody's considering that the small modular reactor would have 6 primary pipelines like VVR 440. Now is the tendency one reactor, one loop, no any pump, perhaps no any steam generator and turbine, and use the small modular reactor for the district heating or for desalination of the water, or only for the heat production, because we are 150 years after Aurel Stodola. And what we do in nuclear power plants doesn't matter if commercial or small modular reactor, almost the same what Aurel Stodola explained on the lessons in 1910. The cycle, Rankine-Clausius cycle, thermal cycle, which we use for the electricity generation by the turbine, has efficiency about 37, perhaps in the best cases up to 40%, not more. So 2/3 of energy we lose. Why we lose it in 21st century? So if we consider in Slovakia to build small modular reactor only for the electricity, it has no change. But for the heating, for the industrial heat, it's excellent. Second point, if we consider the same idea that we will be building nuclear power in a small modular reactor, that we will build one small modular reactor, after 10 years another one, after 10 years another one, forget it. It's costly, long. No. Company producing small modular reactors or micro modular reactors need to produce 100 units and sell it in the world. It's completely different approach to the build. Now we change the paradigm of the nuclear industry to build only one facility, and in some years to repeat it as well as we built Mochovce. It's wrong approach for the small modular reactors. And all this project should be long-term planned for 50 years. But what I taught also to our government, speaking about possibility of the use of the small modular reactor, firstly, you need to know what requests from the industry will come in the year 2060, 70, and only after that decide which type, how many, which reactors we will build. Because nuclear power, it's power engineering. About the consumption of the power, decide the customer switching the instrument, not government, not the wishes of the banks. There should be realistic approach how the industry will need electricity in 30, 50 years. And if I can, there was mentioned the artificial intelligence. And really, in the Vienna yesterday, there was the session about the artificial intelligence needs for the cooling. Artificial intelligence dramatically increase ability. Each clever student at our faculty can prepare bachelor or diploma thesis by the artificial intelligence. Each clever professor has software to recognize if it was written by artificial intelligence or not. Therefore, the students had so-called smoothing software, how to smooth the diploma thesis, so the professor will not recognize it. But we developed another software, anti-smooth software, by the use of the artificial intelligence. So many data are produced only to lie. But all these servers, all these clouds should be cooled down, should be in the climate storage, and it will increase. Each selling company try to recognize your habits if you pay by the credit cards. All these data are transferred and storage. Each city has the 1,000 cameras of the cross-section. Each videos from these cameras about 1 month is somewhere storage and recognized by the artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence will need about other 10% of consume of the electricity. And the conclusion is we need small modular reactors or big unit to produce enough electricity for the small, let's say, development in this area, because after artificial intelligence, there will be another electrical consumers. And therefore, the nuclear industry should increase dramatically the production of the electricity. And I stop.
So before letting Andrew comment on the moving fast in nuclear, I would just try to push back a little bit on the claim that you would need to be a dictatorship to develop quickly something, because the last race when every country started a challenge at the same time, nearly at the same time, was during COVID pandemic, when we tried to develop vaccines. And it wasn't developed in a dictatorship country. It was developed in democratic countries because we have the intellectual and financial capital. But we needed to remove the bureaucracy, squeeze the process, declutter it. So maybe this is what we need to do. Remove the obstacles which are necessary to make the product quickly, but still safely. So there's a little pushback on that. And so moving fast without making the nuclear energy not so safe as it is right now. How to do it?
So, I mean, as Stefano said, private investment in nuclear is a good way to start. There is an imperative, there is a drive that comes from private money and new entrepreneurial companies thinking in different ways. And so we're simplifying our technology as much as we can, with an aim to be able to deliver it quickly, and with an aim to be able to deliver it in the most cost-effective manner. And also the design lends itself to be at a very high level of passive safety. So that gives you the maximum opportunity to locate it with energy users, with heat users, and to be able to not just have power to grid, but also to supply heat for hydrogen production or ammonia production, or to help heavy industry that has heat demand. So many different uses, many different applications, and private money tends to drive as much as possible efficiency. But nuclear needs stable policy. Nuclear needs, if we're to deliver a fleet of reactors across Europe, you need something that links up that policy across Europe. And what we're seeing, we've got the recent European Industrial Alliance on SMRs. Nuclear was selected as a project and a technology to be promoted through that process, which is very helpful for us. And we can start to look at what are the common barriers that exist across the different European countries, and how do the countries work together to simplify things, eliminate the barriers, maximize sort of collaboration and ways of working. So, private enterprise has a key role to play, but government and stable policy is really, really important. The final point I'd say is, SMRs, we talk about a fleet and delivering lots of them. You need to be able to take the learning from project to project. You need to be able to have access to skills wherever you're building. You need to be able to deliver economies of scale in how you operate it as well. So you can't have 27 different operator companies in 27 different countries all doing their own thing. You need to streamline, centralize, and look at synergies. So again, private companies have a major role in doing that and ensuring that we reduce the overall cost and speed things up. But again, ultimately, stable political environments are essential because the development phase of a project, from the time you identify a site, start doing environmental studies, ground condition studies, you're doing seismic assessments, you're engaging with local communities, you're engaging with environmental bodies, you're engaging with the nuclear regulator. These things take 4 or 5 years for a nuclear plant. Even if you can build it in 3 years, your project still takes you 8 years plus, right? And so it's a long-term commitment and it needs that stability.
Because was explained, told, but I will just stress that the fact private sector is investing time because it means that the market or the society believe in the success, yes, that we are close to the success. And in that respect, I think also young people are following this development and they will join the project. And being really skilled young people, they can continue because they are long-term processes. We should took what we know now, our expertise, and continue further to end of the project, yes.
So last question only for Stefano because he has to leave shortly. Regarding moving quickly, one of the important aspects of being privately funded is you don't have to try to persuade the government that failure is sometimes part of the moving forward. You have to experiment, you have to find good design and distinguish it from bad design. But with nuclear energy, you have to be very careful about any failure. So how do you think about the concept of failure in nuclear energy? Do you want to be a little risky to move faster, or you want to be as careful as possible? So how do you think about this very, narrow margin?
I am a tech entrepreneur. So it is my duty to go fast and to take risk, I think. So this is the way I think. And it is actually the right way to do it, because even if we want to go fast, we will be having our first reactor by 2031. And this is a long time for the private approach, a financial approach. Of course, biotech is used to very long time of investment and return, but not the energy sector. So we're a little bit strange animals in this field, and we need to go fast. So we have to take the risk. There is no other way. Hopefully, the timing are very, very different. I think there is so much awareness of the need of nuclear energy to solve the climate change, but also this nuclear independence that we need in Europe, and also competitiveness, that I think we are on the right path.
So any final words before leaving us?
Well, of course, we are in Slovakia, and we really hope that we'll be an actor there. I've been nominated even honorary consul of Slovakia, so I'm very, very proud of this. And so I have another reason for us to be present and push forward this technological achievement for Slovakia. So And I hope to involve a lot of younger people. I don't see the other side of the place, but I hope and I think that there is plenty of students and young people, and we are doing that for them. So very happy to be with you today. Thank you.
So thank you for joining us. Usually people use artificial backgrounds, but I think that was one real.
Very nice. This program.
Yes, that's our main office in Cleveland. So yes, very nice office.
My first impression was definitely okay, but then I noticed the shadows and so on. So can we move to questions from the audience? There's Slido. One of the questions is, I'll simplify it a little. Where is the innovation happening? Is it in Europe, United States, China, or is it spread across the globe? Or are we behind with AI?
There are many technology startups across the globe. There's a large number in the US. The US government is putting a lot of money into this, as well as private money. But Europe has its own fair share of startups as well. Nuclear is now a French company. There's at least 5 or 6 organizations like ourselves who are fortunate to be more advanced of them, already going through regulation
With our technology in France. Where China are driving forward is with pace of delivery. Their technology, again, as described in the film, is in no way groundbreaking, but what they do very, very well is move forward, and they keep moving forward, and that's why they're ahead in this race for clean tech.
Simple China is perhaps number one. This Chinese reactor ACP100 in the Wangguan should be in operation 26. Also, another 210 megawatt high temperature reactor operated in the China since 21. I don't know if it's test reactor or modular reactor, nobody knows, but yes, like Andrew said, China now is on the track in the nuclear industry, but the world is international. So companies moved from country to the country, joint effort, create the new one. So it's very hard to say which is on the top. I could say Slovakia would be in some years on the top in the production electricity from the nuclear, because France decreased and Slovakia after Mochovce 4 finishing will be over 70%. Also, we could be on the top that although 15 different governments, Mochovce subunit was finished. 15 governments for build of the one nuclear power plant, it's perhaps top. Nevertheless, a small modular reactor, from the technical point of view, are mostly evolutionary types of the reactor. There exist officially about 87 basic designs. But from the technical point of view, it's mostly evolution from existing concept. Evolution should be generation 4 or generation 5, which was in the past dedicated for the fusion, but now is considered direction like in generation 4, fast reactor, molten salt reactors, high temperature, very high temperature reactor where the coolant temperature is over 850 degrees of the Celsius. So small modular reactors or micro modular reactors should be evolutionary to use all advantages from existing nuclear facilities?
I would just say that really there is a boom in this sector, and I would say it's very international now. So, as any huge project, you need some cooperation in the world. Of course, maybe leaders are maybe European Union or China. And I would say that a lot of experience and has, especially with new technologies, they are the running this type of new generation reactors is in Russia. Yes. They have these molten salt reactors, there is the research reactor being programmed and others. It was mentioned in this movie also that from the boat they have producing electricity for a town. And even they offer this technology of the liquid lead reactor for the world community. So, and it's the example how we could cooperate. Change what is happening, change climate change. Even today I read in the newspaper that 40 world expert in climate change just wrote announcement and that circulation of the Gulf Stream is changing to the climate change. And because of that, maybe in the north of the Europe, it will be extremely cold. So therefore, I think in really cooperation.
Do you want to add something optimistic?
I'm responsible for the optimism here. Good. We should speak something about the technique because you are natural science or technical educated. Lead-cooled fast reactor is one excellent option how to use the heat exchange by the liquid metal. But in the past, there were several trials, mostly on the Russian submarine. Is in 80s, there were built already 8 submarines, but they were in service 1 or 2 years, mostly because of the material issue leaks in the primary circuit, because lead in the liquid form is aggressive and take out from the old steels the alloying elements. There were big leakages, and on the surface there was big bubbles from the lead, and finally the primary loop was so heavy that the submarine get down. Not. But now this technical problem, material issues, was almost solved by aluminium addition in the special alloys and special steels. Experience from this loop still exists. Based on this submarine, the reactor Brest in Russia was designed and is in the build, and some this, let's say, experimental verification could be there. But as many other projects, Brest is postponed. Is waiting what happened. But from the technical point of view, this heat exchange between the primary coolant and the secondary medium, doesn't matter if it would be water or if it would be gas, is excellent. From this point of view, this type of the small modular reactor has big advantage for the future. And also from the safety point of view, it is better than, for example, the natrium-cooled reactor. There's plenty of experience from the Phoenix, Super Phoenix Rhapsody only in France, but there are other sodium-cooled fast reactors in other countries like China, Russia, Japan as well. But from the safety point of view, a neutronics in the core is dramatically better. because of the cross sections, moderation, etc. If we consider evolutionary, we have to take experience from the innovation done perhaps in the 50s, 60s, and after that, modular concepts which were done by many institutions in 70s, 80s. Do you know where was the first small modular reactor in the world used? It was Straglis. Do you know such country like Panama? Panama is from the nuclear now, the virgin country. No ever any nuclear facility. But the ship Liberty with the reactor or Straglis was moved to the Panama in 68, parked in the international water, put the cable to the Panama, and delivered 8 years, 10 megawatts for the Panama industry till the coal power plant was built in the Panama. After 8 years, take the cable back and move to the country to the origin. No problems with the hard waste, not problems with the regulatory authority, no problems with the public protest and public acceptance. It was the real small modular reactor. If you have island with diamonds, immediately buy small modular reactor. You take the diamonds from the ground. Diamonds are forever. Diamonds pay everything, also research, also university professors, also everyone. So small modular reactor in the Slovakia is completely different from purpose of the use, like in the island somewhere in the Greece or in America, or in the country where do not exist the common grid. Small modular reactor in China, where does not exist the common grid, or in Canada, where it's impossible, or somewhere in Chukotka in the Siberia, is completely different purpose of the use. So we should speak also about the techniques, about the processes, about the progress which could be expected, about the materials which can be used. For example, people think there is a lot of tungsten, and therefore many components were suggested to build in the tungsten. But in the fleet of the 1,000 facilities, there is not enough. The same copper, you think that copper is enough. But if the container for the spent fuel on the reprocessed high-level waste will be produced from the copper, like suggested, there will be no any copper in the world. So not only be excellent in the development of the butyl technology, it's fine. I have my finger crossed for it, but also to be realistic what industry allows. And sometimes we are dreamers, only dreamers. Sometimes we need to have the real look what the industry in some time horizon, 10, 20, 30 years allows. Therefore, option like fast breeders with closing the cycle is excellent. Therefore, lead-cooled reactors are excellent, or high-temperature reactors are excellent. For example, if we would have high-temperature reactor with the helium as a coolant of the primary loop with temperature over 800 degrees of the Celsius, we can produce hydrogen very effectively on the over 85%. And we, after that, can use it in the traffic. But without this type of the reactor, we can't do it by the commercial reactors, only from the electricity changing to the hydrogen. So let's start to consider realistic and what is real possible, but also having in mind the best technical solution and to be a little bit dreamer as well. Thank you.
So regarding the timescales, we have approximately 4 minutes left, and I have 2 more questions, so feel free to answer very shortly. One of the questions from Slido is regarding obtaining uranium, but maybe to put it more generally, we have heard a lot of about improving electricity generation, a lot of about storing waste fuel or fuel waste. But what about gaining the fuel itself? So, are there any improvements happening, or has the problem been solved already and there's nothing to be added there?
Some minutes. So actually, it was already told that we have this fast neutron breeder reactors which can solve all these problems. So we can really produce fuel during this exploitation of this reactor. So there are such technologies, but it was not mentioned. It was not told in the previous comment that always the problem is our materials. All these reactors are working by higher temperatures. We need enough resistant materials for everything. The same problem is we need resistant materials for a huge flux of neutrons in the case of the fuel reactors. So I hope something will come.
My panelist colleagues have very well described the closed fuel cycle, but for nuclear, that's one of our unique selling points, where we aim to combine the liquid lead fast reactor with the concept of reusing spent nuclear fuel. And that's one of the aspects of sort of pan-European collaboration that we're looking to bring together, so that we can have spent nuclear fuel reprocessed, the plutonium's extracted and made into what's called mixed oxide fuel. And then that mixed oxide fuel can be used multiple times in the reactor. And then that allows existing materials to be continuously reused. And the only waste product that comes from that is new are the fission fragments. And those are the short-lived 250-year half-life, 300 years back to the radiotoxicity of mined uranium. So that for us is really the next stage of the industry. And it's not new technology. It's existing technology, but applied in a larger scale way.
I will be very quick. All answers on your question were published in my book, Nuclear Fuel Cycle, issued 2015 in Slovak and English as well. Available in my office.
So my final question is regarding education. How should we educate better? Students, general public, maybe also politicians who are deciding on the level of bureaucracy necessary to build a power plant. So how should we educate better?
I think we should start from the bottom. It's a very bad situation now. We came to Hlohovec Gymnasium and we wanted to give a talk, something to tell about universe, about what is happening there, about stars and so on. And I asked them, do they know something about atomic nucleus? No, they will have it just in the fourth year, just one lesson. So what then we can expect, yes? And to see a parallel, here there's a gymnasium, Jura Hronca, where there is IB, there are IB classes, international bachelor classes. When I saw all this elaborated program, which is there, so I would just suggest, just copy it and use it. And when we have already people, young, skilled enough, they are interested in natural sciences, because science is a hope for the mankind. Then they will study, they will continue.
My children are late teenagers, but when they were 11, they were both taught in school that nuclear was too expensive, it wasn't safe, and it produced waste. That was in the UK, that was what they were taught. And we've got to change that narrative. And I think, we've got to start being clear from an early education age, the benefits of nuclear. I also speak to a lot of politicians, and it amazes me how little they know, not just about nuclear, but about the practicalities of an energy system. So most of many, I shouldn't generalize, many of our decision makers and politicians in society are not particularly well informed. And so, as a nuclear industry, we need to help people understand, and we need to help them understand very simply, because we also in the nuclear industry have an ability to make things very complicated that are not that complicated.
I don't know. If I know it, I will do it.
Maybe we can write good books about nuclear energy and people read them and be educated. So thank you very much. I will just repeat one point. Science is a hope for mankind. So maybe this is a nice point to end this discussion. So already left us Dr. Stefano Buono, CEO of Nucleo, and still here. I'll start from this side. Profesor Vladimír Slugeň, Ústav jadrového a fyzikálneho inžinierstva FEI-STU Bratislava a profesor Šimkovič, katedra jadrovej fyziky a biofyziky tu z Matfizu. Give them a warm round of applause. And Andrew Murdoch from Nucleo UK. Thank you.
Maybe it would also time to thank all organizers from Nucleo, this corporation, because without them it would not happen.
So thank you for the free movie.